Snow White is actually written by Greta Gerwig, who also wrote Barbie and Lady Bird and Frances Ha, and we've been talking about her a lot recently because of Barbie, but also she's one of my favorite writers and directors. I've liked her since high school, so this pains me because what she is doing with Snow White seems absolutely terrible.
Dude, I trusted you. I trusted her.
Because she's involved, I want to believe that this movie will have some redeeming qualities. Will I actually watch it? Probably not. But I hope that it does for those of you who do watch it. But the lead actresses, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, are making it very, very difficult for me to believe that there is anything redeeming about this project whatsoever. Now, I am sure that we have all seen this viral clip, but let's just watch again.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Oh my god, it's a really incredible story. You're making this girl boss story based on an important father figure. Her father tells her to be brave and strong. Don't you think that there's a, something redeeming about men in this story? Oh, that just stood out to me. This is the first time I noticed that, even though I've watched this like 6 times now.
Just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
I am. Why do they look so smug? They both have that look on their face, just like the feminists, like, yeah, we're
Recent developments have added a new layer of intrigue to the story of Snow White and the fierce competition between Brett Cooper and Rachel Zegler. Brett Cooper, a well-known YouTube personality, has found herself in the spotlight, not just for her role in a rival adaptation of Snow White by the Daily Wire, but also due to the controversial circumstances surrounding her alleged departure from the company. Reports suggest that she was forced out in a hostile move, fueling speculation about the Daily Wire's financial troubles and the increasingly erratic behavior of CEO Jeremy Boring. Despite these challenges, Cooper's casting as Snow White has been widely celebrated, especially by fans who long for a return to the timeless magic and romance of the original story. Her faithful interpretation of the character has been met with enthusiasm, much to the dismay of Rachel Zegler. Zegler, who faced heavy backlash for her modern feminist take on Snow White, has been vocal in her disdain for Cooper's traditional adaptation, even labeling her critics as outdated. But this is more than just a battle between two actresses. It's a cultural clash that highlights deep ideological divides in Hollywood and beyond. While Cooper's portrayal is seen as a refreshing return to the classic fairy tale, Zegler's interpretation continues to polarize audiences. With the Daily Wire's financial woes adding further drama to the mix, the Snow White rivalry has taken on new dimensions, captivating fans and critics alike. The question remains, did Disney go too far by rewriting a beloved classic to fit modern cultural narratives? Or is Brett Cooper's traditional approach exactly what audiences have been craving? Buckle up, this story is just getting started.
Literally the one in that trailer, and I'm still like so excited and I get chills.
There I am, Gary, there I am.
The whole thing is just so cool. The moment when the music starts to crescendo as I turn around, when I first heard the music, I was like, stop right there. That's just so amazing. Funnily enough, I recorded the song without hearing the rest of the trailer's score, so I had no idea what it would sound like. I had no idea what Jeremy and his team were envisioning, and he was actually writing the song and writing the music in between takes while he was directing Pendragon. And we were texting back and forth trying to figure out the right key and what it was going to sound like, and he was sending me messages like, I'm so sorry, I'm in the middle of, a glacier valley in Italy, and my songs aren't going through, but we figured it out.
And I saw myself on screen and I just wanted to throw up. I was so happy about it. And it was the most incredible experience. And the fan reaction was insane. We didn't even see what they were clapping for. I think it was good. I don't know.
Sizzle. We didn't see anything.
Adding to the drama, the Daily Wire is reportedly facing major financial struggles. Internal sources claim that CEO Jeremy Boring has been frantically bugging the office, possibly in an attempt to address the growing crisis. This turmoil casts yet another shadow over Cooper's transition into her new role as Snow White in an independent production. The timing of these developments is significant. As Cooper steps into the spotlight for her performance, the tension between her and her former employer raises questions about what really happened behind the scenes at the Daily Wire. Could these upheavals impact her ability to fully embrace her new role, or will they only strengthen her status as a resilient figure in this high-stakes Hollywood showdown? The Daily Wire's financial troubles also raise concerns about its ambitious foray into the entertainment industry. With Cooper's Snow White project gaining traction and being praised for staying faithful to the original fairy tale, the question remains, can the Daily Wire recover from these internal struggles and maintain its influence in the cultural sphere? Now, let's take a step back to fully understand how we got here.
I mean, a couple of things. Obviously, Dude, so much has gone on. Trailers have come out. Like, that's crazy pants. Are you kidding me? I'm like,
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Right. Every time that a celebrity gets like one DM that says KYS, they're like, I'm getting death threats! Someone save me, but not a prince! Don't
Anybody but a prince.
Don't you dare save me.
Well, she's like, I'm getting these death threats, and the cops were like, well, save yourself. Like,
yeah, you're a girl boss, aren't you?
I saw that interview. Save yourself. You'll be fine.
What is this movie all about? Like, what started it off? Where did you get the first idea for it? And what are you hoping to accomplish with this one?
So we got the idea for it literally the day that Rachel Zegler did an interview in which she said that she hated the original Snow White and wanted to rip the guts out of it.
Weird.
And then Disney released those ridiculous cast photos of dwarves that were not dwarves, the multiracial, multi-ethnic, tall people and one dwarf. This is how we make decisions at the Daily Wire. I literally just emailed that to my business partner, Jeremy Boring, and I was like, we should do something like this. And Jeremy's like, okay, we're just going to make Snow White, but we're going to do it to all the specs, with music, with singing, with the original storyline in classic fashion that imbibes from the original well of the values. Specifically because if Disney wants to cede that field to us, we'd be fools not to take it. And we're kind of shocked by the fact that no other studio...
The reaction that came with the Disney version of Snow White. There's certainly been people who have been less enthusiastic about the live-action remakes they've done. I'm definitely one of them. It was very much a case of, okay, here comes another one. Then they cast Rachel Zegler as Snow White, and you think, okay, well, it's a race swap of the character, and it seems a bit nonsensical given the nature of the Germanic legend. But okay, fine.
And the name of the movie, and the plot of the movie, and
exactly.
The fact that if you want, like, I don't care about the skin color of the characters, but when the literal line from the movie is skin as white as snow,
yeah,
and that's why her name is Snow White.
At first glance, this may seem like a simple case of two actresses with conflicting creative visions. But if we look closer, it's clear that Zegler's reaction is less about storytelling principles and more about a fierce battle for public approval. Once seen as a rising Disney star, Rachel Zegler now faces a reputational crisis after her dismissive comments about the original Snow White alienated fans. Enter Brett Cooper, a Hollywood outsider with a politically charged background, who has embraced the role with enthusiasm for the classic fairy tale. Cooper's growing popularity and the positive reception of her performance have undoubtedly rattled Zegler, who may view this as a direct threat to her own relevance. The timing of Zegler's criticism is also telling. Just as excitement around Cooper's portrayal is building, Zegler's negative remarks seem like an attempt to undermine her competition. Zegler's insecurity is evident. Her version of Snow White has been widely criticized as too modernized and disconnected from the character's roots. Her own comments, such as admitting she only watched the original film once and hated it, have further alienated her from fans of the franchise. In contrast, Cooper's deep respect for the original story and her personal connection to the role have resonated with audiences. Zegler's dismissive attitude toward the classic film has only intensified the backlash against her. This isn't just about two different takes on Snow White, it's about what kind of storytelling audiences truly want.
Really emotional. I'm also really tired. I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats. And maybe that's a weird takeaway.
Even more bad news for Disney's Snow White remake coming out next year.
I'm a narcissist.
There's another Snow White movie competing with it. It's called Snow White and the Evil Queen, and the producer promises to be more faithful to the spirit of the original animated classic.
Walt once said about Snow White, to me, I thought it was the perfect story. Unfortunately, the company Disney founded doesn't agree with their founder.
Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot interview talking about this dumbass new Snow White live action movie is so funny. Everyone working on this movie seems to hate the original. Why didn't we just make a brand new movie? I don't know, Jack. I ask that every single time I do one of these episodes. I would really, really love to know. There's a couple of TikToks. I mean, they've been all over my For You page right now, which I really appreciate.
Adriana Caselotti walked so that you could run Miss Ma'am. This role would not exist for you if that role had not existed for her in 1937. I know that you've rewritten it, and it's going to be about a Snow White that don't need no man to save her. Did you ever stop to think that in this day and age, that is exactly what we want? There are women in this world who want that fairy tale because all they've known is the exact opposite. And there are women who don't want to hear about rescuing themselves because they do it all the time. You are talking down on the first full-length animated feature in history. Generations upon generations, decades upon decades of Snow White being Snow White. The way you're stomping around complaining, you're acting like a toddler. You are a toddler.
It's such a good TikTok. Everything she said is so accurate, right down to saying women do not want to rescue themselves, because that's what we do literally every single day. Thank you, feminism. Thank you very, very much. Maybe we don't want to see that in a movie.
It's really quite simple. Rachel Zegler likely sees Brett Cooper's portrayal of Snow White as a threat because Cooper's faithful adaptation directly challenges Zegler's modernized vision. By staying true to the original film's values, Cooper exposes the controversial nature of Zegler's approach. Zegler's version of Snow White emphasizes independence and leadership, rejecting the romantic themes that were central to the original story. However, Cooper's portrayal reaffirms the lasting appeal of those very elements. Her interpretation embraces the character's innocence, kindness, and belief in love, qualities that have deeply resonated with fans. For Zegler, this contrast is a significant problem. It highlights just how far her version strays from the story that audiences love, making her feel increasingly defensive and insecure. Cooper's success has sparked a larger debate. Should classic stories be preserved, or should they be modernized to fit contemporary ideals? For Zegler, the backlash against her portrayal doesn't just impact her role in Snow White, it also threatens her public image as a champion of progressive storytelling. She is now faced with the reality that audiences may not be as eager for her version of the character as she had hoped. Zegler's own statements have played a major role in fueling this controversy. By dismissing the 1937 film as outdated and creepy, she has alienated fans who cherish the story's legacy. Her admission that she only watched the original film once and disliked it further reinforced the perception that she lacks respect for the character. In contrast, Cooper's love for the original story positions her as a champion of tradition. This makes Zegler's criticisms seem even more disconnected from what audiences actually want. At its core, this debate is about more than just Snow White. It's an ideological battle over how stories should be told. Zegler's take aligns with modern feminist ideals, emphasizing female empowerment over traditional romance. While this approach may appeal to some, it has also been criticized for stripping away the charm that made the original beloved. Meanwhile, Cooper represents a return to timeless storytelling, drawing support from audiences frustrated with Hollywood's trend of reimagining classics through a modern lens. This stark contrast turns Cooper into a direct challenge to Zegler's vision. By proving that a traditional take on Snow White can still resonate with audiences, Cooper exposes the weaknesses in Zegler's approach, making her creative choices open to scrutiny. Adding to the tension is the professional rivalry at play. While Cooper, a YouTuber, has successfully stepped into a beloved role, Zegler has struggled to win over audiences despite being a rising Hollywood star. This dynamic could be fueling Zegler's frustrations, making her feel overshadowed. Instead of doubling down on her own strengths, her attacks on Cooper may only be worsening her own public image. The more Cooper's portrayal is praised, the more Zegler's take is cast in a negative light. This has created a feedback loop that only intensifies the debate over Snow White's legacy.
I like the beginning.
In time a prince would come. Once upon a time, but now that time
Brings me back to my childhood.
is gone.
No freaking way! No!
Yo!
Brett Cooper?
No way. Hold on. So Brett Cooper, if you were watching this, Isaac cried.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a lot of millions of men that cried.
Yeah.
But Isaac is one of them. But this says Snow White and the Evil Queen coming Bentkey. I guess that's like the production company they have.
No, that's their new children's program. So Daily Wire just released an entire children's section.
Okay, yeah, you're right. But it's coming in 2024, which the other Snow White movie is supposed to come in 2024 as well.
She's so hot.
Is she?
I'm a narcissist. Original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Okay.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. And then it became like, I will elbow everyone out of the way to play the part. That people will assume is a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
I say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
And we absolutely absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
And there you have it. Rachel Zegler versus Brett Cooper. A battle of visions, ideologies, and industry influence. Zegler's sharp criticism of Cooper's Snow White may stem from insecurity or fear of being overshadowed, while Cooper's faithful portrayal has earned widespread support, exposing flaws in Zegler's modernized approach. But this isn't just about two actresses, it's about a larger cultural battle over tradition versus innovation and what audiences really want from their stories. Will Disney's Snow White remake collapse under the weight of controversy? Or will the Daily Wire's traditional take emerge as the stronger contender? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Are you Team Zegler or Team Cooper? Don't hold back. And make sure to subscribe to Woke Informant for more unfiltered takes on Hollywood's wildest controversies. Until next time, keep questioning the stories you're being told and who's telling them.
He tweeted out and said, "I like learning about the Snow White movie and realizing that Peter Dinklage took roles away from hardworking actors who have dwarfism so that he could pretend that he helped others by bitching." And then another person said, "Hey Snow White fans, if you were looking forward to the new live-action Snow White and don't know the whole story, you can thank Peter Dinklage for this. He felt threatened by anybody his height getting a dwarf role because people might realize that he is overrated." So obviously, I had to look into this. I did a little Google searching, and I found this article from 2022. Peter Dinklage says the 7 dwarfs are an insult, but the reality is more complex. So the article says, during a conversation regarding Disney's upcoming live-action remake of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, Dinklage praised Disney for casting a Latina actress as Snow White, but condemned them for continuing to present what he believed were outdated stereotypes. Now, this interview happened in January of 2022. It was published in February, but this happened in January. The article goes on, and they quote Dinklage saying, "Literally, no offense to anything." No, you're taking offense. "But I was sort of taken aback.